You know, you need to dream bigger for the people who can't dream as big as you can. You need to do this, and you need to lift up your voice for those people who have been oppressed and who have been hushed. Like, that is your purpose here.
Hey, welcome to the Ninjababes podcast. I am here today with Gloria Orta. What's up? She is brand new to the A&W scene on American Ninja Warrior. This is her first season competing on A&W 12. And I'm super excited to get to know her more and to introduce all of you to her. And I'm stoked to hear from her. She has a unique story and it's so relevant to what's going on in our world today. And so I'm excited to hear from Gloria. And how are you? What's going on? Welcome to the podcast.
I'm really good. I'm so excited to be here, and just, I'm really glad that you gave me this opportunity to speak out and everything. So I'm very grateful for that.
Totally. So you are 20 years old when you competed on A&W this season, like just a few months ago, I guess. Yeah. You were 19 still at the time, or 19 when you got casted?
Yeah, when I was casted. Yeah.
Got it. So definitely like one of the young bloods for sure. Which is exciting. Like, how did it feel, like, getting called?
It was, obviously, when I was called, I cried so hard. It was so unexpected. We were already told that, like, it wasn't going to happen, and then we heard that it was only pros. So it was just like, okay, I'm not going. Like, it was just like, I had already made my peace with it. And then they call me and they're like, hey, do you want to be on this show? And I was like, what? So it was a big shocker, and especially during all of this. So it was obviously like really exciting to get called, and I was very, very grateful.
Yeah. So just kind of like dialing it back for anyone who doesn't realize, like, a lot of season 12 was scheduled and like ready to go back, in the spring 2020. And then we all know what happened with COVID. And so everything was canceled and postponed and whatever. And there were hundreds of more athletes called for season 12 who didn't end up being actually called for the second round to go ahead and compete. And I know their list changed. And so, like, I was one of those people who I got a call originally, and I was ready for my April date. And then, like, I guess a couple of weeks before, I'd have to look back at the calendar, the exact day, but like just a few weeks before in March, they canceled, and we were all like, what is happening? Like, but it's so cool to be talking to someone who actually was able to compete. And I know the format was different than it's been in the past, but it's awesome to have you aboard, and it's awesome to just, like, I don't know, like, it feels cool. Like, who are the people who actually made it through onto season 12? And it's going to be really different watching this season. So I'm excited.
Yeah. I'm really glad that they gave like a new chance to people who haven't really been on it, like don't have that much experience with the sport. So it was really nice to see different faces, and I think that's going to be exciting for the viewers, like seeing new people and like looking up to new people also, and just, identifying with more people. I think that would be really cool to watch.
For sure. Yeah. So tell us more about yourself, because you were born in Mexico, right? And now you live in Texas. So why don't you just go ahead and start and share some of your story? Just where did your family originate, and how did you end up coming to live here?
Yeah, so I was born in Matamoros, Tamaulipas, Mexico, and it's a neighboring city to Brownsville, Texas. And when I was little, we lived there for, I think I was about 6 years old when I moved over here. When I moved over here, my stepdad was the one that brought us over here. And unfortunately, my dad did have to stay in Mexico because he didn't have like that ability to come to the U.S. So that was very, very difficult for me to be away from him for a very long part of my life. And just doing life without him was really weird. Obviously, he tried so hard to be in everything that I was involved in, but because of like having a crossover, like the line to cross over can be up to like 3 hours long just to cross. So by the time that he would get here, my events would be over, and obviously he would have to go back because he has a family in Mexico too. So it was definitely a huge sacrifice for him to be able to let me go. And find, a better opportunity here in the US and just be able to dream bigger over here.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's interesting to hear you explain about, sometimes you would try to come over from crossing borders, right? So come over to be here for events and things. But it's wild because sometimes you think of, oh, like a commute after work can be tricky and like a lot of traffic, but this is totally different,
Yeah,
right? And so trying to be a part of those events in your life and a part of what's going on in your life, but yet dealing with like country differences and a
yeah.
separation of a border is challenging. Um, so when you first came over, you came with your mom,
Mhm.
correct? And then you had siblings that came as well,
Yeah,
or no?
so I
Yeah.
had my older sister and my stepsister, and then when we came over here, my younger sister was born.
Okay. So what was it like for your family that was here? Like the new experience of being in a new country and a new place. Like how did that hit you at first? How old
It
were
was
you also?
Yeah, I was about 6 years old when I came over here. It was definitely weird. I didn't really, because I was so young, and the city we moved to, which is Brownsville, Texas, because they're so close to Matamoros, they get a lot of students from Matamoros. So
Mhm.
it was a very smooth transition for me because they did have those aides like to help you. They had the bilingual classes, and then like
Okay.
we also had some Spanish classes. Um, and because of that, I didn't even notice that I was in a different country. But for my mom, it was very difficult because she only speaks Spanish, and she had to communicate with other people and register for certain types of things, and with
Mhm.
little to no English at all. So that was very
Mhm.
hard for her, and just like my older sister, she really struggled with the language, and unfortunately, because I was younger, like it was easier for me to learn it,
Mhm.
but it was definitely hard for my family and obviously for the people we left in Mexico.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So then, what was sort of your timeline after that? Moving into like, childhood sports and all those things. How did you end up even coming into a ninja gym? Like, were there other significant things that happened before that?
So I swam from like middle school, the end of middle school to high school, and I fell in love with the sport. It was just so challenging, and it was just really awesome. I loved my team. I loved, my coaches. They were all very, very helpful. Um,
Mhm.
I did it all through high school. I was even captain for 2 years. So that was really awesome. And then once high school ended, that was just like one of the biggest crossroads for me, just like figuring out, like, well, what do I do now? Because like all I knew
Yeah.
was swimming. And so
Mhm.
I didn't know anything else. And I was like still kind of getting into just picking up weights and stuff. But, I wanted to be in a team. I wanted to do something. I wanted to eventually compete and stuff. And so I
Mhm.
told my swim coach, I'm like, well, what do you think? What do you think I should do? And he said, well, where you're going in the city that you're going, there's this ninja gym, and you should try it out. The coach name is Abel Gonzalez, and it's in Mission. And so I was like, okay, like I've seen it on TV,
Yeah.
and I was just like, well, I don't think that they have like an actual setup for adults. I think it's just like a baby thing, like a
Mhm.
toddler type of thing. I had
Yeah.
never been to a ninja gym before. Like this was completely new, and just
Yeah.
walking into the gym, it still looks so baby to me because like you see like everything and you don't know what they're for. So you're like,
Yeah.
okay, well, like, I don't know, like, it just looks like things are hanging and it just looks pretty. And so when they actually explain it to you, I'm like, oh, that's not how I thought it. Like, and so, like, it just, like, from far away, the holds don't always look so hard, And then,
Right.
especially when really good athletes do it, and make it look so easy. I'm just like, yeah, okay. And then I try to get on a ring and I fell. Like, I couldn't get to the second ring, and, everybody that knows Ninja, you know that
Mhm.
the rings are like the easiest thing, like, and I couldn't do it. And it was just like a huge challenge for me. And it's something
Yeah.
completely different and way out of my comfort zone. And I think that's why I
Mhm.
kept going, because it was such a challenge.
Yeah. That's so funny. I love hearing people's first experiences in movement because it's always so hilarious to look back on.
Yeah.
I think my first experience, it was a lot of parkour at Movement Lab at that time in Hainesport, New Jersey. And yeah, so it was a lot of like running and jumping and like grabbing things and holding on, which I could do that because I don't know, my background's in track. I was more comfortable with that, but anything
Mhm.
hanging, like cannonballs, like the nice cannonballs that are like this big and it's easy
Yeah.
to get onto. I definitely was falling and slipping off of everything.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so it's crazy to look back. So then as you applied for season 12, was your first year applying, or like
Mhm.
how did you even come to the decision to apply? Were your gym mates like, you got to do it, or like how did that happen?
Yeah. So, Abel, which is my coach, he was the one that definitely pushed me to apply. Um,
Hmm.
like he wanted me to apply like that same season that I came into, which I had only like, which was last season, and I was only in the gym for like a couple months, and he already wanted me to apply. I'm like, you're crazy! Like I just got over the rings, like you saw me, and but I wasn't able to apply because I was 18 and the age is 19. So so he really pushed for me to apply for this season, and I was obviously, I just kind of did it just to please him, and like, okay, like get off my back type of thing. But I didn't expect anything, and it just so happened that they found something and they
Yeah,
decided to call me.
that's awesome. Congratulations. That's so cool. Yeah, it's awesome. So then your story, I mean, we don't have to go into detail because I know it's like hard to like talk about stuff before it's aired. But even just with your casting video, or like what is your story as an American Ninja Warrior? Um, as you explained to me earlier, like that relates back to your story of immigrating and what your family has been through. So
Mhm.
what were kind of like the key things in your casting or like in your ANW story that were probably like what stood out to the producers and like definitely what I think is important for the community to hear?
Yeah. So for me, it was just talking about the fact that I am an immigrant, and the fact that this was a process and a sacrifice for my family. But
Mhm.
I really wanted to make it clear to them that, and I mentioned it, that just because this is my story, it's not the same for a lot of immigrants. And
Mhm.
I I shared my story, and I just really wanted to explain that my story is very rare. My parents were able to save up and have the luxury to save up to apply for
Mhm.
citizenship, but that is not the reality for a lot of people. And it's just very important that my story is not the only one that's heard. We have to listen to other people, and not just say like, oh, she did it, like she got the American dream, but a lot of people are living the American nightmare. Like that is not
Mhm.
the same. We're not the same just because we aren't immigrants. That's the only thing that we have in common. The sacrifice is not the same. Leave. I didn't have to. Yes, I left my dad, but he wasn't that far. There's people that have like their families across the world, and they have
Mhm.
no contact with them whatsoever because they don't even have a phone. Like
Yeah.
there's no way to communicate with them. Like it's very, very difficult for them. And so I just, shared my story of that. It was a struggle, but just really shining that light on those people who have been, oppressed and been hushed.
Mhm. I think it's powerful to share like what your experience has been. And also, I'm sure you have other friends or family friends like that have immigrated or who have not for whatever reason. So I know that you have a different perspective than someone who doesn't really know what people experience when they immigrate, whether it's from Mexico or anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that you had mentioned is that like this idea of being a product of sacrifice, especially from your mom, right? I know that you had mentioned earlier that your mom sacrificed a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Are there other like lessons or like other things that you feel like your mom instilled in you in this process of moving over here and like her being so strong and being willing to sacrifice? Are there other things that you feel like you've learned from her?
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest things that she's given me was the ability to become a citizen because the process because I was still underage, she took me with her. So she did all of the citizenship process. She took a test in English, which was very, very hard for her, only speaking Spanish. And when she became a citizen and when we both became citizens, she told me one thing, and it was just like so profound and so just really motivates me every single day that I just want to give up. And she told me, because now that you're a U.S. citizen, you only have one limitation, and that's that you cannot be president of the United States. And I told her, well, I never wanted to be a president. And so to me, that just means like you have every opportunity, you need to take it, because you need to take it not just for yourself, but for the people who can't. You need to dream bigger for the people who can't dream as big as you can. You need to do this, and you need to lift up your voice for those people who have been oppressed and who have been hushed. Like that is your purpose here. That is why you're here, and that's why you need to take advantage of this opportunity that not a lot of people have. And that's just, it just moves me in so many ways that my only limitation is one that I never even wanted,
I feel like it's very specific people who would want to be president, but I
Yeah,
totally, yeah, but that's so powerful.
yeah,
And that's such an interesting way to look at it is like, look at what you've accomplished, like look how far you've come. Like there are no limitations. Like look what you have done and what you can do.
yeah.
So I think that's really cool. Speaking of like role models or people that you look up to, is there anyone else in your life who's been like that sounding force for like inspiration and like a role model to you?
Yeah, so for sure, my older sister is a huge role model for me. She is the reason I don't give up. She has been through so many struggles, like mentally and just like life in general, and she's overcome a lot because she did get all of that struggle coming into the U.S. and not knowing the language and all of that, and
Yeah.
just so many stress that came with that, and just she has never given up. She has never let that bring her down and just destroy her and just label her. She has really shown me that that is not your identity. Like failure is not your identity. You're trying and you're pushing through. And I think a role model is somebody who shows you what do they do through failure. And I know that my sister gets back every single time, even when like I fail because I fail a lot, and I just want to give up. But I just think of her, and I'm just like, that's not what she would do, and so I get back up. And I know that my little sister's watching, and I want to be that role model for her too. That just because I'm falling, I'm not done, type of thing.
Right.
And so she has shown me that, and I really hope to show my sister and younger girls that.
Yeah, I love that. That's so awesome. And I especially love that it's like your older sister has taught you something, you've realized how it applies to your own life and your own unique, strengths and weaknesses, your own unique struggles. Like these are real things, and it's cool to see how you can learn from her, but then also internalize what you've learned and want to like be that role model for your younger sister as well. So I think that's really cool and very so commendable. Like that's really amazing. So you're getting ready to go back to school, huh? Summer always goes by so fast, and here we are, back to school, back to learning. It doesn't matter whether you're going back to school virtually or in person. All of us need some sort of pick-me-up and that nice, refreshing drink by our side to get us through those long study sessions. Now, who knows the answer to this hydration dilemma? Ding, 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 you guessed it, Propello Life. Propello Life has amazing all-natural products like whey and vegan proteins, amino acids, energy and focus blends, pre-workout. All of their products are non-GMO. They are tested for heavy metals. These are products that many of us have come to know and love, and I use on a regular basis. So when you go from homework to working out, you will be hydrated, fueled, and ready for all of your activities. And the best part is, when you make a purchase from Propello Life, you are supporting the Ninjababes podcast. That's right, your listening right now is partially made possible because of Propello Life. So thank you, amazing people at Propello Life, and thank you, listeners, for trying out their products and using code Ninjababes for 10% off your purchase. Check it out today at propellolife.com, and don't forget to use code Ninjababes for your discount and free shipping. I know you mentioned this a little bit ago, but what do you feel like has been one of the most like triumphal moments in your life?
Yeah.
Or what has been a great triumph in your life?
Definitely becoming a U.S. citizen and having just all of the opportunities that this country has to offer. I think that is just the biggest thing, like above any, medal or trophy or, reward. I think because it all goes back to that, being able to be a citizen and having these opportunities to even attempt to do these things, that it all goes back to my mom's sacrifice. And it is just the biggest moment.
Yeah. I love that. I think a lot of people don't realize like the benefits or the privileges that we do have living in this country.
Yeah.
Or those of us who are already citizens take for granted or just don't realize the magnitude of it. But even going back to family, like there are so many parents and, caregivers out there who have made great sacrifices for their kids in order for them to go to college or for them to have different or better opportunities than they had. And so sometimes I know I have not appreciated always what my parents have done for me, but like the house that I grew up in, my dad built that house, and then he lived in it when he was like first married, and then he lived in it his whole life. They still live there, but that's where I grew up. And just to think that like my dad put all that craftsmanship and like time and money and energy into building a home, like they could have maybe at that time they wouldn't have been able to afford just buying one, but he also wanted to build it. Like he wanted to create that space. And I think there's a lot of ways that parents do want to create that space, and struggles and challenges come, and sometimes people have good intentions and sometimes it doesn't pan out as well as they wanted to. But I think there's always ways that we can reflect and be grateful for what the people in our lives have tried to do to make our lives better.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I want to look forward to like what is like next for you. So you're still in school, and I know that you have a lot of dreams for the future. And so I kind of want to talk about like, I think it kind of goes hand in hand, and like what would you say is like your best advice for other girls your age? And then from that, like, what do you see yourself doing in the future? And we'll talk about all those things the next bit of our episode here.
Yeah. So, and when I was just thinking of, because you hear that a lot, and people asked athletes and people who are doing big things, they ask them like, what is your advice to the younger generation? And it's always work hard and do your best. And that is true. You do need to work hard, but I think that my advice would be to fight for those who are too tired to fight. You need to dream big for those who can't dream as big as you can, and you need to speak up for those who have lost their voice. I think it is important to be selfless, not just to live for yourself. There is no gain when you don't take someone up with you. It's just so important that you help other people, and you choose service over yourself sometimes, and that is just the biggest gain in anything. I think that is why we have a purpose and we have a calling, and we shouldn't just be doing it for ourselves and for our success and for our name. We need to shine light in very important issues when you do get that platform, and work hard, and you will be successful.
Yeah, I think that's so good. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
But I think that leads right into kind of what you're going to school for and what you are looking to do in the future. So do you want to explain more about it?
Yeah. So, future plans is obviously to finish my bachelor's and then go on to my master's. Um, I do plan on working with immigrants because, um, and a lot of people are like, well, how does that pay? And like, how does that work and stuff like that. I will figure out a way to, like, even if it's volunteering my time to serve immigrants who have
Mhm.
been traumatized, who are dealing with all of this
Mhm.
trauma, people who come from a different country. In that process of coming, they there are people who are tortured. There are people who see their families being killed in front of them. There is um, abuse that goes on, and when they come to the U.S. and they are detained and they're put in a very, very small spaces, that is more trauma added onto them. So, and nobody is treating them for these types of things. There are people who are the people who are taking care of them are not caregivers. And so
Mhm.
I think that it's very important for me to serve those people and treat those people and find a way to get them help. And I do
Mhm.
not mind volunteering my time at all because, like I mentioned, my life is bigger than just myself. Um, I will find another job. I will find, something to make money. But I think my big thing is to help those immigrants who are dealing with all of those things.
Mhm. Yeah, it's so important, and it's amazing to hear your heart and your drive and your passion to serve that community and those people, and um, to realize that everyone has a different story and a different experience, and they need to be heard, they need to be cared for, and there needs to be that support in what they're going through. And so it's amazing that you feel called and drawn to that. As you've been studying and as you've been involved in psychology, right, and in your degree and all that, like, is there anything that you're learning in regards to your field that you think would be beneficial for other people to look into regarding immigration, or even just how we can better serve our communities in that way?
Yeah, I think it's very important to just get educated. I think that it
Mhm.
just comes down to that, um, and just being educated about these types of issues. It's not rocket science to see that if you get abused, if you're like tortured, there's going to be psychological damage. I think that is just a very simple, equation for anybody to understand. And I think that as soon as we click that into our brains, we're going to be curious about all of the process that goes on. And I think it's just so important that a lot of people might not want to because they're like, well, it doesn't involve me. It doesn't really have to do with me. But it does, though. Like these types of
Mhm.
places are being paid with your tax dollars. And I know that for me, it absolutely frustrates me that that's where my money is going to. And I'm sure that when people hear this, it's going to, bring something up inside of them and it's going to frustrate them too. And I think just really seeing that and becoming educated and just looking towards resources for that, that's when you're really going to be like, okay, yeah, I need to be involved.
Mhm. Yeah, if where would you send people to look if they're wanting to learn more or have like more resources?
Definitely on Netflix, there's these two very, very important films. There's one that's called The 3 Minute Hug, and that is when El Paso and what is it? El Paso y Ciudad Juarez, they opened up their border to let people in the US and people from Mexico, their families, to reunite and hug for 3 minutes. And it is just a very, very touching. I think it's like 20 to 30 minutes long, and it's just so powerful to see that they're seeing their child for the first time, they're seeing their parents for the first time, they're seeing family from after like so many years, and then just kind of reliving that again after those 3 minutes. It's hard. I can't imagine being apart like that from my family. Like it's just
Mhm.
devastating, and it's heartbreaking to see that. And of course there is like, I'm glad that, 3 minutes instead of 0 minutes, like that is a big leap.
Mhm.
But I think that we need more. We need a bigger change, and that is definitely going to move something inside of you. Another one that is very important is Immigration Nation. It's also on Netflix. It's a couple episodes long, and it just really explains what's going on, and it gives you facts, and it shows you exactly what's going on, and it even looks scripted to me. Like I even had to look back to see if it was like real, because it just looks
Mhm.
so cruel that somebody would be able to just go through that and allow that. And just seeing that just broke my heart in pieces, just for those families. And I had to text my family that I love them, because like it just brought so many emotions, seeing children being literally being pulled away from their parents, and then not knowing where your child is. Like that is traumatizing. I
Yeah.
can't even imagine that. And I just think those two films are very important to watch. Um, two website articles that I recommend is, one is called the Texas Civil Rights Project. Um, that one is just really explains the things that are going on in the valley, down here in Texas, and it just really informs you. They also have a YouTube channel. They have a lot of great information there also.
Mhm.
And then one other website is hhs.gov. They just keep you updated with immigration updates. And I just think that, if you're curious, and if your heart starts to move, it just becomes obvious to research into this and to educate yourself in all of this, and just really give a listening ear to these people, because they have been oppressed for so long. They have been hushed by media. It's not really talked about in the media because no one wants to cover it, because
Mhm.
it's so harsh, because it's so cruel. And to think that that is in our country, that's hard, because
Mhm.
sometimes we hear that bad things are happening in other countries, and there is, but there's also really bad things happening in our country that we can't look away from.
One question I have, speaking as a general public, I think a lot of people hear that people come to this country to find a better life, which I think in a lot of respects is true. But why would they come if there's so much turmoil in the coming process?
Yeah. So I think a lot of people think that because they assume that they know this, that they see media, that they have access to internet and stuff like that, and that is not the case
Mhm.
at all. They have no idea what is going on over here. Um,
Mhm.
there's how do you say? They don't. There's people who go to these countries and to serve, and there are wonderful people who are serving other countries, and they're serving these types of people, but that are away from their families, and so they idolize Americans. They're like, oh, Americans are so great because they come over here to help us. And yes, there are some very, very good Americans here, but the people that they're introduced to when they come to this country are not those good Americans. They're detained by people who just want to put them in a confined place. Um,
Mhm.
they are not received the way that they interpret them to be. They have no idea that they're going to be detained. I don't think that they would ever go through that process knowing that there is very, very little possibility that they will actually be allowed into the country. They think that it's just a smooth transition into the country, and it's a wonderful place that they have opportunities, and that is not the case. They don't get the American dream; they get the American nightmare, and um, that's what they're um, that's what they experience, and that's what they go through, and they don't. expect to be separated from their 1, 2, 3, 4-year-old child. I mean, I don't think any parent, a good parent, would ever put their child through that. The reason that they bring a child so young is to give them an opportunity here, not to separate themselves from them. They don't expect to go months without knowing anything about their child, not even knowing if they're alive, if they're eating, if what they're doing. It is just ridiculous to even think that they know all of this, because they don't. And I think that is just something that we all need to understand, that is not what they're expecting. They're expecting a better welcoming, and that is what we should be giving them. But that is just not the case right now.
Thank you for explaining that. Do you have any last words? Do you have any other advice or just anything else that you'd like to share before we close out today?
I do remember one of my high school teachers, he once told us that when he was educating us about injustice that has gone on before in the past, especially with Black people in the U.S., and he explained, the very severity of it. After he told us all of that, he said, you came into this room not knowing anything. You were naive, so you weren't responsible for not knowing that, because nobody taught you. But now, because you know this, and if you decide to leave without doing anything about it, without educating yourself further, you are choosing to be ignorant. You are choosing to remain in your ignorance because you are responsible for what you know. And so I just think that it's just very important for everybody to know that after hearing all of these traumatizing things and still choosing not to research further, not to look at these videos and stuff, you are choosing to remain ignorant.
That's important. And I'm glad you said that. Like, it's really important. And I think that goes for a lot of different topics and issues in our society today. But I think this is something that can be easy for people who don't want to think that it's really going on to ignore or just assume that that's the exception, So thank you for sharing today, and thank you for sharing your story. I'm so excited to have you as part of our community, and I'm excited to see you on AW12. Do you know at all when your episode will come out, or which episode you will be in?
I'm on the second episode because I shot on the second day, but I want to say it's the 14th.
Okay, I know sometimes the dates change last second. But all right, so as of right now, hopefully September 14th. Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you again. And yeah, you can find more of Gloria where? Do you want to share your Instagram handle or anything like that?
Yes, it's at Gloria So Fit. And that is my name.
Awesome. Yep. And you can check out other updates from the Ninjababes at theninjababes.com or Instagram at the Ninjababes. All right. Thank you so much.
Be strong, be you, be a Ninja Babe. Sé fuerte, sé tú, sé una Ninja Babe.